They kicked her to the ground. An 8-year-old girl, bleeding from her elbow, crying on the cold hallway floor, while a Marine father stood over her and laughed. Her crime. 5 words spoken into a microphone. "My mom's a Navy SEAL." That's all it took. One truth. And a room full of adults decided to destroy her. They ripped her poster to shreds. They tore her grandfather's challenge coin from her neck, a coin earned in blood by a man who died serving his country. They called her a liar. They said her mother didn't exist. They thought no one was coming. 15 minutes later, a black SUV screeched into the parking lot. The door flew open, and the woman they said wasn't real stepped out in tactical gear eyes locked on the building where her daughter was bleeding. She didn't run. SEALs don't run. She walked. Each step a countdown. Each breath a promise. And every person in that school was about to learn what happens when you hurt a warrior's child. Before we show you the moment a gunnery sergeant realized he'd just made the worst mistake of his life, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Hit subscribe, tap the bell, and stay until the end. Because this isn't about revenge. This is about reckoning. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead as Lily Mercer clutched her poster against her chest and tried to make herself smaller. She was 8 years old, small for her age, with dark hair pulled into a tight braid that her grandmother had fixed that morning. Her shoes were polished. Her dress was pressed. And in her hands, she held a piece of poster board covered in photographs, hand-drawn American flags, and careful block letters that spelled out, "My hero, my mom, Commander, Rachel Mercer, U.S. Navy SEAL." She'd worked on it for 2 weeks. The gymnasium of Pinecrest Elementary was packed for Family Pride Night. Parents filled the bleachers. Children sat in rows of folding chairs near the front. Teachers moved between clusters of adults making small talk and checking clipboards. Somewhere near the refreshment table, someone laughed too loudly. Lily's seat was in the back corner, empty chairs on either side. Grandma June was supposed to be here by now, but she'd called 20 minutes ago saying the car wouldn't start. "I'm coming, baby," she'd promised. "Just sit tight." So Lily sat and waited and watched other children stand up one by one to introduce their parents. "My name is Ava Richardson. That's my mom over there. She's the PTA president." Applause. "I'm Malik Foster. My dad just got back from deployment. Staff Sergeant Marcus Foster, United States Army." Louder applause. A few whistles. "I'm Tyler Hartley. My dad's Gunnery Sergeant Brad Hartley, United States Marine Corps. He's done 3 combat tours." The applause was thunderous. Lily watched Tyler Hartley return to his seat. He was 10, broad-shouldered for his age, with a buzz cut that matched his father's. When he passed her row, he glanced at her poster and snorted. "What's that supposed to be?" Lily didn't answer. "Hey." Tyler stopped walking. "I asked you a question." "It's for my mom." "Your mom?" Tyler leaned closer, squinting at the photographs. "Commander Rachel Mercer, Navy SEAL." He said it loud enough for the kids around them to hear. "That's fake. There's no female SEALs." "Yes, there are." "No, there aren't. My dad would know." "Your dad's wrong." Tyler's face reddened. Before he could respond, a teacher called for the next student, and he stalked back to his seat. But Lily saw him whispering to the boy next to him, saw them both look back at her and laugh. Her fingers tightened on the poster. "It's okay," she told herself. "Mom's coming. She always comes." 10 minutes later, it was Lily's turn. Principal Diane Foster smiled from the podium. "Lily Mercer, would you like to come up and introduce your family?" The walk to the front felt longer than it should have. Lily could feel eyes on her from every direction. She stepped up to the microphone, adjusted it down to her height, and took a breath. "My name is Lily Mercer," she said. Her voice was small but steady. "My mom couldn't be here tonight. She's training on base, but she's Commander Rachel Mercer." Lily held up her poster. "She's a Navy SEAL." Silence. Not the respectful kind. The kind that came before something broke. From the center bleachers, a woman's voice cut through. "I'm sorry, did she say SEAL?" Lily recognized the voice. Karen Hartley. Tyler's mother. PTA vice president. The kind of woman who smiled too wide and talked too loud and always seemed to be watching. "Yes, ma'am," Lily said. "My mom's a SEAL." Karen Hartley laughed. It wasn't a kind laugh. "Sweetheart, I think you're confused. SEALs are men. Your mother might work on a base, but she's not a SEAL." "She is." "Honey?" Karen's voice dripped with false patience. "There's no such thing as a female Navy SEAL. I'm married to a Marine. I know how this works." From beside her, Brad Hartley chuckled. "Kid's been watching too many movies. Next, she'll say her mom parachuted into the gym." Laughter rippled through the bleachers. Lily's poster trembled in her hands, but she didn't lower it. "My mom earned her trident in 2005. She was one of the first women to complete SEAL qualification. She's real. She's coming." "Oh, is she?" Karen Hartley tilted her head. "Then where is she, sweetheart? Because I don't see any SEALs here. Just a little girl with a very big imagination." More laughter. Louder now. Principal Foster stepped forward. "All right, let's keep things moving. Thank you, Lily. You can take your seat." Lily walked back to her chair with her head high, but her eyes were burning. She wouldn't cry. She wouldn't give them that. As she sat down, Tyler Hartley leaned over from the row in front of her. "Told you, liar." "I'm not lying." "Prove it." "I don't have to prove anything to you." Tyler's sister Madison, 12 years old, with her mother's sharp smile, turned around too. "If your mom's really a SEAL, why isn't she here? My dad says real warriors prioritize family." "She's training. It's important." "More important than you." Madison's smile widened. "That's sad." Lily's hands curled into fists under her poster, but she said nothing. She just stared straight ahead and waited for the program to end. The break came 20 minutes later. Parents flooded toward the refreshment table. Children scattered into the hallways. And Lily slipped out through the side door, clutching her poster like a shield. She found a bench near the Lost and found Bin halfway down the corridor. A poster about anti-bullying hung on the wall beside her. She didn't look at it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Grandma June Carr's fixed baby. "On my way. 10 minutes." Lily typed back, "Okay." She didn't mention what had happened. Grandma would find out soon enough. Footsteps echoed down the hallway. Lily looked up and felt her stomach drop. Tyler Hartley was walking toward her. Madison was with him, and behind them, 2 more kids from their class followers who laughed at whatever the Hartleys found funny. "There she is." Tyler's voice bounced off the lockers. "The girl with the imaginary SEAL mom." Lily stood up, holding her poster against her chest. "Leave me alone. Or what you'll call your fake mom, she's not fake." Madison circled around to Lily's left, blocking the path back to the gymnasium. "You know what I think? I think your mom's probably a secretary, or a janitor. Something embarrassing. That's why you made up the SEAL thing." "My mom's a hero. Heroes show up." Tyler stepped closer. "Where's yours?" Lily's voice cracked, but she held her ground. "She's coming." Sure she is. Tyler reached out and grabbed the edge of Lily's poster. Let me see this thing. Don't. He yanked it from her hands. Give it back. Tyler held the poster up, studying it with exaggerated interest. Commander Rachel Mercer, Navy SEAL. Blah, blah, blah. He looked at his sister. What do you think Mads Real or fake Madison pretended to examine it? The photos look real. But the story, she shook her head. Total fantasy. Give it back. Lily's voice was shaking now. Please. Say your mom's not a SEAL. No. Say it. No. Tyler's expression hardened. In one quick motion, he tore the poster down the middle. The sound was worse than a scream. Lily lunged for the pieces, but Madison caught her arm and shoved her backward. She stumbled, hit the lockers, and slid down to the floor. Oops! Madison's voice was ice. Clumsy! Lily scrambled to gather the torn pieces of her poster, but Tyler was already ripping them smaller. Photos of her mother, the hand-drawn flags, the careful letters, all of it destroyed. Stop it! Lily screamed. Stop it! That's my mom! Tyler dropped the shreds and laughed. No, it's not. Your mom doesn't exist. And then he saw it. Around Lily's neck, hidden beneath her collar, a glint of metal had come loose during the struggle. A challenge coin on a thin chain. Old, worn, engraved with the SEAL trident. What's that? Tyler reached for it. Lily clutched it against her chest. Don't touch it. Is that more fake military stuff? He grabbed the chain and yanked. The clasp broke. The coin flew from Lily's neck and clattered down the hallway. No! Lily scrambled after it on her hands and knees. Madison stepped on her hand. Lily cried out in pain as the heel of Madison's shoe ground into her fingers. That coin belonged to my grandfather, Lily gasped. Please, your grandfather was probably fake, too. He died in service. He was a SEAL. My mom's a SEAL. Why won't you believe me? Because you're a liar. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Adult ones. Lily looked up and felt her heart sink further. Brad Hartley stood at the end of the hallway, arms crossed, watching the scene with a half-smile on his face. Dad, Tyler called out. This girl won't stop lying about her mom being a SEAL. Brad walked closer, his boots echoing on the tile. He looked down at Lily, this small, trembling 8-year-old on the floor, with tears streaming down her face and blood on her scraped elbow, and shook his head. Sweetheart, he said slowly, I served 3 combat tours. I know what SEALs look like, and they don't have little girls running around making up stories at school events. I'm not making it up. Sure you're not. He turned to his son. Tyler, leave her alone. She's embarrassed enough. But Dad, I said leave her. Brad's voice hardened, then softened again, as he looked back at Lily with something like pity. Maybe this'll teach you not to make up stories about heroes you don't understand. He walked away. Tyler followed, but not before kicking Lily's shin hard enough to make her gasp. Liar, he whispered. Then he was gone. Lily sat alone in the hallway, surrounded by the torn remains of her poster, cradling her throbbing hand, her grandfather's coin lying somewhere in the darkness near the water fountains. She didn't cry. She wanted to. God, she wanted to. But somewhere deep inside her, in the place where her mother's training had seeped through by osmosis, she found a small, hard piece of steel. They don't know, she told herself. They don't know anything. She crawled down the hallway until she found the coin. It had rolled under a bench, scratched, but intact. She pressed it against her heart and closed her eyes. Mom's coming, she thought. She always comes. Behind her, a door banged open. Grandma June Mercer stood at the end of the hallway, 74 years old, silver-haired and sharper than a combat knife. Her eyes swept the scene in 1 second. Lily on the floor, the torn poster, the blood on her elbow, the tears she was fighting to hold back, and her face transformed into something cold and terrible. "Lily." Her voice was calm. Too calm. "What happened?" "They said Mom wasn't real." Lily's voice broke. "They tore my poster. They took Grandpa's coin. They kicked me." "Who?" "The Hartley kids. And their dad was there. He laughed." Grandma June's jaw tightened. She walked to Lily, knelt down, and examined her granddaughter's injuries with the practiced eye of someone who'd spent 30 years as a battlefield nurse. "Can you stand?" "Yes." "Good." June helped her up, then pulled out her phone. "We're calling your mother." "But she's in training." "I don't care if she's briefing the Joint Chiefs of Staff." June's thumb was already moving across the screen. "Someone just hurt her daughter. She needs to know." She pressed the call button. 2 rings. 3. Then a voice, sharp and alert, despite the late hour. "Mom, what's wrong?" "Rachel, it's Lily. She's hurt. Some family at the school, the Hartleys, their kids attacked her. Father watched and did nothing. It's bad, honey. You need to come." A pause. Then, "I'm on my way." The line went dead. June looked down at Lily and squeezed her shoulder. "Your mama's coming, baby. And when she gets here, those people are going to learn something important." Lily wiped her eyes. "What?" June's smile was thin and sharp. "That there's a reason her call sign is Ghost. You don't see her coming. But by the time she arrives, it's already too late." 15 minutes later, a black government SUV screeched into the parking lot of Pinecrest Elementary. The door opened before the vehicle fully stopped. Commander Rachel "Ghost" Mercer stepped out. She was 52 years old, with gray-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun, and a face that had seen things most people couldn't imagine. She wore tactical training gear she hadn't taken time to change. There was a slight limp in her step, a souvenir from Fallujah, but it did nothing to slow her down. Her eyes swept the parking lot, the building, the exits. Old habits. Combat habits. She moved toward the entrance with the controlled speed of someone who had spent 22 years operating in the most dangerous places on Earth. Not running. SEALs didn't run unless they were pursuing or retreating. She was doing neither. She was arriving. Inside, Grandma June met her at the door. "They're still here. The Hartleys. Staff room." "Lily. Nurse's office. Scraped elbow, bruised hand, bruised shin. She's okay. Shaken, but okay." Rachel's jaw tightened. "Show me." She walked down the hallway like a force of nature. Staff members who saw her coming pressed themselves against the walls without knowing why. There was something about her presence, a density, a weight that made people instinctively create space. At the nurse's office, she stopped, took a breath, and opened the door. Lily sat on the examination table, a bandage on her elbow. Her grandfather's coin clutched in her uninjured hand. When she saw her mother, her composure finally broke. "Mom." Rachel crossed the room in 3 steps and wrapped her daughter in her arms. She held her tighter than she'd held anyone in years, and pressed her lips against Lily's hair. "I'm here," she whispered. "I'm here, baby. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner." "They said you weren't real." Lily's voice was muffled against her mother's chest. "They said I was lying. They tore my poster. They took Grandpa's coin." "I know. I told them the truth, Mom. I told them you were a SEAL. I told them you were coming, and they laughed." Rachel pulled back just enough to look her daughter in the eyes. Her own eyes were bright with something that might have been tears, but her voice was steady as steel. "Lily, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. You told the truth. They couldn't handle it. That's their failure, not yours. But they hurt me. I know. Rachel's voice dropped to something cold and quiet. And they're going to answer for that. She stood up, straightened her shoulders, and looked at the school nurse who had been pretending not to watch. Where are the Hartleys? Staff room, down the hall, second door on the left. Thank you. Rachel turned back to Lily. Stay here with Grandma. I'll be back. Mom. Rachel paused at the door. Lily's voice was small but clear. Don't go easy on them. Rachel's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes. A ghost of a smile. A flash of recognition. That's my girl, she thought. I never do, she said. Then she walked out the door, turned left, and headed for the staff room where a gunnery sergeant and his family were about to learn exactly who they had messed with. Her boots echoed down the hallway, each step deliberate, each footfall a countdown. The Hartleys didn't know it yet, but the woman they said didn't exist was 30 seconds away, and she was bringing the reckoning with her. Rachel's boots hit the floor with the kind of rhythm that made people stop talking before they knew why. She passed the gymnasium doors, past the trophy cases, past a group of teachers who pressed themselves against the wall without understanding what drove them to move. 22 years in naval special warfare had given her many things. A limp that never fully healed, scars that told stories she'd never share, and a presence that announced itself before she ever opened her mouth. The staff room door was closed. She didn't knock. The handle turned under her grip, and the door swung inward, revealing exactly what she expected Brad Hartley, sitting with his arms crossed. Karen Hartley, examining her nails like this was a minor inconvenience. Tyler slouched in a chair with his phone face down on his thigh, and Madison pretending to be bored. Principal Foster stood near the window, clearly uncomfortable. Steve Morrison and his wife Linda sat apart from the Hartleys, their body language screaming that they wanted to be anywhere else. Everyone looked up when Rachel entered. Karen Hartley recovered first. Excuse me, this is a private meeting. Parents only. Rachel didn't respond to her. She walked to the center of the room and stood there, feet shoulder-width apart, hands loose at her sides, a position that looked relaxed to civilians. Anyone with military training would recognize it as something else entirely. Principal Foster, Rachel said. Her voice was quiet, controlled. My name is Commander Rachel Mercer. My daughter Lily is in your nurse's office with injuries sustained in your hallway. I'd like to understand how that happened. Brad Hartley's eyes narrowed. He took in the tactical gear, the bearing, the way she held herself. Recognition flickered across his face, then doubt, then something that might have been the first stirring of fear. Commander, Karen laughed, but it came out too high. Commander of what? United States Navy. The Navy? Karen's smile tightened. Well, that explains the uniform. You're what an administrator HR. Rachel finally looked at her. Just looked. The same look she'd given warlords in Afghanistan who were about to lie to her face. The same look she'd given enemy combatants who thought they could wait her out. Karen's smile disappeared. I'm a Navy SEAL, Rachel said. Senior Chief Instructor at Naval Special Warfare Command. Your children assaulted my daughter in the hallway because she told them who I am. Your husband watched and did nothing. She paused. I'd like to hear your explanation. The room went dead silent. Brad Hartley sat up straighter. Now hold on. There's no such thing as a female SEAL. I've served 3 combat tours. I know, you know what you've been told. Rachel's voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. You know what fits your understanding of the world, but your understanding is incomplete, Gunnery Sergeant. Brad's jaw tightened at his rank. She'd identified him without being told. That registered. I earned my trident in 2005, Rachel continued. Silver Star 2015. Bronze Star with Valor 2011. Purple Heart twice. I've briefed presidents. I've trained the men and women who protect this country. And tonight, your son threw my daughter to the ground because he didn't believe I existed. Steve Morrison made a small sound. Everyone looked at him. Steve, Brad's voice was sharp. You got something to say? Steve's face had gone pale. He was staring at Rachel with the expression of a man watching a grenade roll across the floor. Brad. Steve's voice was barely above a whisper. Do you know who this is? She just told us. Some woman claiming to be Ghost. Steve cut him off. Her call sign is Ghost. Brad, I served with a guy who served with her. She's the real deal. That's impossible. She carried 2 wounded Marines 3 miles through enemy territory with a shattered ankle. My buddy was there. He told me the story 100 times. Steve looked at Rachel with something approaching awe. You're Commander Ghost Mercer. Rachel said nothing. She didn't need to. Karen's face had lost its color. This is ridiculous. Even if she is military, that doesn't change what happened. The girl was lying, making up stories. She was telling the truth. Rachel's voice cut through Karen's like a blade. Every word. And you mocked her for it. You let your children torment her. Your husband watched your son physically assault an 8-year-old girl and called it a lesson. It wasn't assault. He kicked her. Rachel took 1 step forward. Just 1. But Karen flinched like she'd lunged. He tore her poster. He ripped a challenge coin from her neck, a coin that belonged to her grandfather, a SEAL, who died in service to this country. Your daughter stepped on her hand, and you want to tell me it wasn't assault? Kids rough around, Brad said, but his voice had lost its confidence. It happens. We didn't know. Didn't know what? Rachel turned to face him fully. Didn't know she had a mother who would come, didn't know there would be consequences. She stepped closer. You shouldn't need to know who someone belongs to before you treat them with basic decency. Brad's face reddened. He stood up using his height to try to regain control of the situation. He was taller than Rachel by 4 inches, broader by 40 pounds. It didn't matter. Look, Commander, or whatever you are. His voice hardened. I don't care what medals you have. This is a school matter. Your daughter told a story that nobody believed and things got out of hand. That's not my responsibility. You made it your responsibility when you stood in that hallway, watched your son assault a child, and laughed. I didn't laugh. You smiled. You called it a lesson. You walked away. Rachel's voice dropped lower. In my world, Gunnery Sergeant, that makes you complicit. Your world... Brad stepped closer, trying to intimidate. Let me tell you something about the real world, lady. I don't care if you're a SEAL or the Secretary of the Navy. You don't come into a school and start throwing accusations at Marine families. Then stop me. The words hung in the air. Brad froze. You're a combat veteran, Rachel said quietly. 3 tours, you said. So you know how to read a room. You know how to assess a threat. She held his gaze without blinking. Look at me, Gunnery Sergeant, really look, and tell me if you want to keep pushing. For 5 seconds, nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Then Brad Hartley sat back down. Karen made a sound of disgust. Brad, shut up, Karen. You're just going to let her... I said shut up. The room recalibrated. Power had shifted. Everyone felt it. Principal Foster cleared her throat. Commander Mercer, I want you to know that we take this very seriously. I've asked the IT department to pull security footage from the hallway. I have footage. Tyler's voice was small. Everyone turned to look at him. He was pale, his earlier bravado completely gone. Madison was recording, on her phone. "Tyler," Madison hissed. "She recorded the whole thing when we took her poster. And the coin, all of it." Rachel looked at Madison. "Give the phone to Principal Foster." "I don't have to—" "Madison." Brad's voice was tired, defeated. "Give her the phone," where Madison looked at her mother for support. Karen's lips pressed into a thin line, but she gave a small nod. Madison pulled the phone from her pocket and handed it to Principal Foster with shaking hands. "Play it," Rachel said. Principal Foster hesitated, then tapped the screen. The video began. For the next 2 minutes, everyone in the room watched Tyler Hartley tear an 8-year-old girl's poster. They watched him yank the coin from her neck. They watched Madison shove Lily into the lockers and step on her hand. They heard the things they said. "Liar. Fake. Your mom doesn't exist." And at the end, they heard Brad Hartley's voice. "Maybe this'll teach you not to make up stories about heroes you don't understand." When the video ended, Tyler was crying silently. Madison was staring at the floor. Karen's face had gone from pale to gray. Brad Hartley looked like a man who had just watched his career die. "That's assault," Principal Foster said, her voice shaky. "That's documented assault of a minor by other minors, and verbal endorsement by an adult." "It was a mistake," Karen said quickly. "The children got carried away. Brad didn't mean Mrs. Hartley." Rachel's voice cut through the excuses. "I spent 22 years learning to read people, learning when they're lying, learning when they're afraid, learning when they're sorry because they're guilty, and when they're sorry because they got caught." She paused. "Right now I'm looking at a family that's sorry they got caught." "That's not fair." "Fair." For the first time, something hot flickered in Rachel's voice. "Your son kicked my daughter because she told the truth about who I am. Your daughter filmed it like entertainment. Your husband called it a lesson. And you sat in that gymnasium and told an 8-year-old girl that her mother doesn't exist." She stepped closer to Karen. "You want to talk to me about fair?" Karen shrank back in her chair. Steve Morrison stood up suddenly and stood. "Commander Mercer, can I say something?" Rachel turned to him. "I want to apologize." Steve's voice was rough. "Not just for tonight. For all of it. My daughter was there too. She laughed. She didn't stop it." He swallowed hard. "I should have taught her better. I should have taught myself better." His wife Linda stood up beside him. "We're sorry. Truly sorry. We should have said something in that gymnasium when people started mocking your daughter. We didn't. That was wrong." Rachel studied them for a long moment. Then she nodded once. "Thank you." Brad Hartley watched this exchange with growing desperation. His alliance was fracturing. His support was walking away. "Steve, come on." Brad's voice was strained. "We're all military families here. We stick together." "Not like this." Steve shook his head. "Not when it means watching kids hurt other kids." "I'm done, Brad." He took his wife's hand and walked toward the door. As he passed Rachel, he stopped. "Commander, I served 20 years in the Corps. I thought I knew what strength looked like." He paused. "I was wrong. What your daughter did tonight, standing up and telling the truth when everyone was against her, that's the bravest thing I've seen in a long time." Then he was gone. The door closed behind him. Karen turned on her husband. "Brad, do something." "Like what, Karen?" Brad's voice cracked. "You saw the video. Our kids attacked a little girl. I stood there and let it happen. What exactly do you want me to do? Don't let her win. This isn't about winning." Brad stood up so fast his chair scraped against the floor. "Don't you get it?" We're wrong. We were wrong from the start. We mocked a kid for telling the truth about her mother. Our son put his hands on her, and His voice broke. I laughed. I told her it was a lesson. For the first time, something shifted in the room. Not fear, not anger, shame. I've served my country for 15 years, Brad said quietly. I've done things I'm proud of, things I'll never talk about. But tonight, he looked at Rachel. Tonight I watched my son assault a child, and I called it education. That's not who I'm supposed to be. Rachel said nothing. She waited. I'm sorry. Brad's voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry for what my kids did. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for what my wife said. He took a breath. And I'm sorry I didn't believe your daughter when she told the truth. Karen stared at her husband like he'd lost his mind. Brad, you can't just... Karen. His voice hardened. For once in your life, stop talking. She fell silent. Brad looked at Tyler, then at Madison. Both of you, on your feet. They stood trembling. You're going to apologize to that little girl. You're going to mean it. And then we're going to have a very long conversation about what kind of people we're raising in this family. Dad, Tyler started. I don't want to hear it. Brad's voice cracked. I've spent your whole life teaching you that strength means being bigger, being louder, being meaner. Tonight I watched where that leads. I watched my son kick a little girl because she told the truth. He wiped his eyes roughly. I'm done. We're all done. The room was silent. Rachel looked at this man, this Marine who had spent the night mocking her daughter and was now standing in the wreckage of his own pride, and she felt something shift. Not forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But something. Principal Foster, Rachel said quietly. I want a formal report filed. I want documentation of the assault. And I want assurance that this school will protect my daughter going forward. You'll have all of it, Principal Foster said immediately. I'm suspending Tyler for 10 days, Madison for 5. The Hartleys are banned from school events for 1 year. This will be reported to the base family advocacy program. Karen opened her mouth to protest, then closed it. Rachel nodded. I want to see my daughter now. Of course. I'll take you to... I know where she is. Rachel turned and walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the handle and looked back at Brad Hartley. Gunnery Sergeant, you asked me earlier what I am. What I really am. She held his gaze. I'm the mother of a little girl who was brave enough to tell the truth when everyone in the room was against her. I'm the daughter of a SEAL who died serving his country. I'm the widow of a pilot who gave his life saving others. Her voice softened, but didn't weaken. And I'm the woman who's going to walk out of this room, hold my child, and thank God she inherited her father's courage instead of my silence. She opened the door. Commander. Brad's voice stopped her. She looked back. Your daughter. Brad's jaw worked. She's got guts, standing up like that, telling the truth when nobody believed her. He swallowed. You should be proud. Rachel's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shifted. I am, she said, more than you know. Then she was gone. Her boots echoed down the hallway, each step carrying her closer to Lily, each step leaving the Hartleys further behind. But she wasn't thinking about them anymore. She was thinking about an 8-year-old girl who had stood in front of a hostile room and declared her truth without flinching, who had taken their mockery, their cruelty, their physical assault, and hadn't broken. who had looked her tormentors in the eye and said, "My mom is coming." Rachel had spent her whole career being the one who arrived when things went wrong. The ghost who appeared in the darkness, the warrior who emerged when hope seemed lost. But tonight, she wasn't the hero. Lily was. She reached the nurse's office and pushed open the door. Lily sat on the examination table, Grandma June beside her, the challenge coin still clutched in her small hand. When she saw her mother, her face crumpled. "Mom?" Rachel crossed the room and pulled her daughter into her arms, held her tight, pressed her face against Lily's hair, and breathed in the smell of her shampoo, her tears, her courage. "I'm here, baby. I'm here." "I didn't cry." Lily's voice was muffled. "Not when they hurt me. Not when they tore my poster. I didn't cry until you came." "That's okay. You can cry now. I wanted to be strong, like you." Rachel pulled back and looked her daughter in the eyes. "Lily, listen to me. You were stronger than I've ever been. I didn't tell the truth about my job until I had a trident on my chest. You told it when you had nothing but your word." She cupped Lily's face in her hands. "What you did tonight was the bravest thing I've ever seen." Lily's lower lip trembled. Really? Grandma June wiped her eyes. "I told you, baby girl. Your grandfather's looking down right now, grinning ear to ear." Lily threw her arms around her mother and held on like she'd never let go. And Rachel held her back, this small, fierce child who had stood alone against a room full of doubters and never once let go of the truth. The coin pressed between them warm from Lily's grip. 3 generations of Mercers. 3 generations of warriors. And the legacy wasn't in the medals or the missions or the sacrifice. It was in this moment, in this embrace, in the quiet truth that some things were worth fighting for. "Mom?" Lily's voice was small. "Yes, baby. Can we go home?" Rachel smiled against her daughter's hair. "Soon. There's one more thing I need to do first." "What?" Rachel pulled back and looked toward the door. "I need to make sure they understand, not just what happened tonight, but what it means." Lily nodded slowly. "Okay." Rachel kissed her forehead. "I'll be right back." She stood up, squeezed Grandma June's shoulder, and walked back into the hallway. The night wasn't over yet, and the Hartleys still had one more lesson to learn. Rachel walked back toward the staff room, but she stopped halfway there. Something had changed in the air. A commotion near the gymnasium doors. Raised voices, the sound of chairs scraping against floors. She changed direction. When she rounded the corner, she found a crowd forming. Parents who hadn't left yet. Teachers trying to maintain order. And in the center of it all, a man in a colonel's uniform was pushing through the doors with the kind of authority that expected everyone to move. Colonel James Whitmore, base commander at Naval Amphibious Base Coronado, Rachel's commanding officer. Their eyes met across the gymnasium. "Commander Mercer," his voice carried. "A word." The crowd parted as Rachel approached. She could feel the weight of every stare, every whisper, the woman in tactical gear, the SEAL who wasn't supposed to exist. "Colonel." She stopped 3 feet away. "I wasn't expecting you." "Someone called the base." Whitmore's jaw was tight. "Said there was an incident involving military families. Said a woman claiming to be a SEAL was threatening people." Rachel's expression didn't change. "I see. Is that what happened?" "No, sir." "Then tell me what did happen." Rachel held his gaze. "My daughter was assaulted by other children while a Marine NCO watched and laughed. I came to address the situation. No threats were made. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't touch anyone." Whitmore studied her for a long moment. Then he turned to the crowd. Who made the call? Silence. I asked a question. Who contacted the base? Karen Hartley's voice came from somewhere behind the crowd. I did. The sea of parents shifted as she pushed forward, Brad trailing behind her with an expression of pure horror. Karen, don't, Brad started. Someone had to do something. Karen's voice was shrill. This woman came in here making accusations, threatening my family, claiming to be something she's not. Something she's not. Whitmore cut her off. His voice was ice. Mrs. Hartley, do you know who you're talking about? Some woman who... Commander Rachel Mercer is one of the most decorated operators in the history of naval special warfare. Whitmore's voice rose just enough to carry. She has served this country for 22 years. She has earned every medal on her chest, and she is without question a Navy SEAL. Karen's face went white. Colonel, Brad tried to intervene. Gunnery Sergeant Hartley. Whitmore's attention snapped to Brad. I've already received a preliminary report from Principal Foster. Your children assaulted Commander Mercer's daughter. You witnessed part of it and did nothing. Is that accurate? Brad swallowed hard. Sir, it was a misunderstanding. That's not what I asked. The gymnasium had gone completely silent. Every parent, every teacher, every child who hadn't been ushered out was watching. Yes, sir. Brad's voice was barely audible. It's accurate. And you called my SEAL a liar. Brad closed his eyes. Yes, sir. Whitmore turned back to the crowd. Let me be very clear about something. Commander Mercer has never, in 22 years of service, needed anyone to fight her battles. She doesn't need me here. She doesn't need validation from any of you. He paused. But I came anyway because I wanted to see for myself the kind of people who would mock a child for telling the truth about her mother. No one spoke. What I found, Whitmore continued, is a family that bullied an 8-year-old girl because they couldn't imagine a woman doing what Commander Mercer has done. And when confronted with the reality, instead of apologizing, you called my office to try to get her in trouble. Karen's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Nothing came out. Mrs. Hartley, your husband serves under the Unified Combatant Command Structure. He works in a joint environment. That means his career can be affected by incidents that cross service lines. Whitmore's voice hardened. Tonight, your family crossed a very serious line. Colonel, please, Karen's voice cracked. We didn't know, you didn't know that actions have consequences, that words matter, that your children were learning from your example. Karen started to cry. Not the dramatic tears of someone seeking sympathy. Real tears. The kind that came when everything fell apart. Rachel watched in silence. She felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not pity. Just the cold clarity that came after a mission when the adrenaline faded and all that remained was the reality of what had happened. Commander Mercer. Whitmore turned to her. What do you want? The question surprised her. Sir, this is your call. What happens next is up to you. Do you want formal charges? A base inquiry? Administrative action? The crowd held its breath. Rachel looked at Karen Hartley, sobbing into her husband's shoulder. At Brad, who looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. At Tyler and Madison, standing near the staff room door with tear-streaked faces. She thought about Lily, about the torn poster, about the challenge coin that had belonged to her father. She thought about Marcus. What would he do? The answer came without hesitation. Because Marcus had always been the better person, the one who believed in second chances. the one who saw potential even in people who had done wrong. "I want 3 things," Rachel said finally. "First, I want a formal apology, not to me, to my daughter, in person. Tomorrow." Whitmore nodded. "Done. Second, I want assurance that this will never happen again. To Lily or to any other child who tells a truth that makes people uncomfortable. The school has already agreed to new anti-bullying measures," Principal Foster said quickly. "And the Hartleys are banned from school events for a year." "Good." Rachel paused. "Third, I want them to understand why this matters." "What do you mean?" Whitmore asked. Rachel stepped forward past the colonel, past the crowd, until she stood directly in front of Brad and Karen Hartley. "You mocked my daughter because you couldn't believe I was real. Because in your world, women don't do what I've done. They don't earn tridents. They don't serve in combat. They don't come home with scars." Her voice was quiet, but it carried. "But here's what you don't understand. I didn't become a SEAL to prove something to people like you. I became a SEAL because I lost someone who believed in me. Someone who told me I could do anything. Someone who died before he could see me earn my trident." Brad's eyes widened slightly. "His name was Marcus Mercer. He was a Navy pilot. He was my husband. He was Lily's father." Karen's sobbing quieted. "He was killed in action when Lily was 2 years old. He never got to see her grow up. Never got to see her first day of school. Never got to see her stand in front of a room full of people and tell the truth about who her mother is." Rachel's voice broke slightly. She let it. "Tonight your children tore up a poster that my daughter made to honor me. They took a challenge coin that belonged to my father, another SEAL who died in service. They hurt her because she was proud of where she came from." She looked at Tyler, at Madison. "You didn't just bully a little girl. You tried to take her history, her legacy. The only pieces she has left of the people who loved her." Tyler was crying openly now. Madison had her face buried in her hands. "So here's what I want you to understand." Rachel's voice steadied. "You can hate me. You can doubt me. You can believe whatever you want about women in the military. But you don't get to touch my daughter. You don't get to mock her truth. And you sure as hell don't get to tell her that her family doesn't exist." She turned back to Whitmore. "That's what I want, sir. I want them to understand." The gymnasium was silent. Whitmore nodded slowly. "I think they do." Brad Hartley stepped forward. His face was wet. His voice was rough. "Commander Mercer, I served 3 combat tours. I've done things I can't talk about. I thought I understood sacrifice." He paused. "I was wrong." Rachel waited. "What you just said. About your husband. Your father. What your daughter carries." Brad's voice broke. "I never thought about it like that. I never—" He trailed off, unable to continue. Karen stepped forward beside him. Her mascara was ruined. Her composure was gone. "I'm sorry." The words came out choked. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't. You didn't ask." Rachel's voice was soft now. "That's the point. You didn't ask." Karen nodded, unable to speak. Tyler pushed forward past his parents. He was 10 years old, and in this moment he looked younger, smaller, broken in a way that might be permanent or might become the foundation for something better. "Commander Mercer." His voice shook. "I kicked your daughter. I tore her poster. I took her grandfather's coin." He stopped, swallowed hard. "I did all of that because I thought she was lying. Because my parents said she was lying. Because I believed them instead of her." Rachel looked at this boy, This child who had caused her daughter so much pain and saw something she hadn't expected. Regret. Real regret. "I'm sorry," Tyler said. "I know that doesn't fix anything. But I'm sorry, and I want—" He stopped, started again. "I want to do better. I want to be the kind of person who doesn't hurt people for telling the truth." Behind him, Brad Hartley put a hand on his son's shoulder. Not to restrain him, to support him. Something in Rachel's chest loosened. "Tyler," she said quietly, "I'm not the one who needs to hear that." "I know," he nodded. "I'll tell Lily. Tomorrow. I'll tell her everything. Make sure you mean it." "I will. I promise." Rachel looked at this family broken, humbled, standing in the wreckage of their own arrogance, and made a decision. "Lily forgives more easily than I do," she said. "She gets that from her father. But forgiveness isn't the same as forgetting, and it's not the same as trust." Brad nodded. "We understand. You earn trust. By doing better. By being better. By making sure this never happens to another child." "We will," Karen said, her voice still thick with tears. "I swear we will." Rachel turned to walk away, then stopped. "One more thing." Everyone waited. "There's a little girl in the nurse's office right now who kicked a door so hard it splintered the frame." The crowd murmured. Rachel allowed herself the ghost of a smile. When I asked her why, she said she was proving a point, that when someone tells you your truth isn't real, you don't explain, you demonstrate. She looked at Tyler. "That's my daughter. That's who you tried to break tonight, and she's stronger than all of you." Rachel walked away. The crowd parted before her. Behind her, she could hear the soft sounds of the Hartley family gathering themselves, preparing to face the consequences of what they'd done. Tomorrow there would be formal apologies. There would be counseling. There would be a long, hard road toward becoming the kind of people who didn't need to tear others down to feel tall. But that was tomorrow. Tonight, Rachel had somewhere else to be. She found Lily and Grandma June waiting by the nurse's office door. Lily looked up when she heard the footsteps, and her face transformed. "Mom." Rachel knelt down and took her daughter's hands. "It's done, baby. It's over." "What happened?" They apologized. "They'll apologize to you too tomorrow, and they're going to make sure this never happens to anyone else." Lily searched her mother's face. "Are they sorry? Really sorry?" Rachel thought about Brad Hartley's tears, about Karen's broken sobs, about Tyler's shaking voice. "Yes," she said. "I think they are." Lily nodded slowly. "Okay. Okay. I'll forgive them, like Dad would." Rachel's eyes burned. She pulled Lily into a hug and held her tight. "Your dad would be so proud of you," she whispered. "So proud." "Are you proud? More than I have words for." Grandma June wiped her eyes. "Can we please go home now? This old woman needs a cup of tea and a good cry." Rachel laughed, the first real laugh she'd had all night. "Yeah, Mom, let's go home." They walked out of Pinecrest Elementary together. 3 generations of Mercer women. Grandmother, mother, daughter. Each one carrying the legacy of the men they'd lost and the strength they'd found. The parking lot was quiet now. Most of the families had left. The black government SUV sat where Rachel had abandoned it, doors still unlocked. She helped Lily into the back seat, settled her grandmother in the front, and walked around to the driver's side. But before she got in, she stopped, looked up at the sky. The stars were out. Thousands of them. The same stars that had watched over her on deployments in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in places she couldn't name, and operations she couldn't acknowledge. She thought about Marcus, about the last time she'd seen him, the way he'd kissed her goodbye and promised he'd be home for Lily's birthday. He never made it. "I did it," she whispered to the darkness. "I protected her, just like I promised." The wind stirred, the leaves rustled. And Rachel Mercer, Commander Ghost, one of the first female Navy SEALs, widow, mother, daughter, warrior, stood alone in a school parking lot and let herself cry. Just for a moment. Just for him. Then she wiped her eyes, opened the car door, and got in. "Mom," Lily's voice came from the back seat. "Are you okay?" Rachel looked at her daughter in the rearview mirror. This small, fierce, unbreakable girl who had stood up to a room full of doubters and never flinched. "Yeah, baby," she said. "I'm okay." She started the engine. "Let's go home." The SUV pulled out of the parking lot, headlights cutting through the darkness. Behind them, Pinecrest Elementary sat quiet and still, the site of a battle that had been fought and won, without a single shot fired. In the back seat, Lily pressed her grandfather's challenge coin against her heart and closed her eyes. Tomorrow, there would be apologies. Healing. The slow work of building trust from the ashes of hurt. But tonight, she had her mother beside her, her grandmother humming softly in the front seat, and the knowledge that she had told the truth when no one believed her. And the truth had won. The Mercer women drove home through the quiet streets, the weight of the night settling around them like armor. It wasn't over, but the hardest part was done. And whatever came next, they would face it together. The doorbell rang at exactly 9 o'clock the next morning. Lily was sitting at the kitchen table pushing scrambled eggs around her plate. She hadn't slept well. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Tyler's face, felt Madison's heel on her hand, heard the laughter that had followed her down the hallway. But she was dressed. Her hair was brushed. And when the doorbell rang, she looked at her mother with steady eyes. "They're here," Rachel said quietly. "Are you ready?" Lily nodded. "I think so." Grandma June stood up from her chair. "I'll get the door." "No." Lily pushed back from the table. "I want to do it." Rachel and June exchanged a glance. Then Rachel nodded. "Okay, baby. We'll be right behind you." Lily walked to the front door. Her hand trembled slightly on the handle. She took a breath the way her mother had taught her. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Center yourself. She opened the door. The entire Hartley family stood on the porch. Brad in civilian clothes, looking smaller than he had the night before. Karen with no makeup, her eyes still puffy from crying. Tyler and Madison behind them, both pale, both terrified. Nobody spoke. Lily looked at them for a long moment. Then she stepped back. "You can come in." They filed in silently, single file, like prisoners approaching a tribunal. Rachel stood in the living room doorway, arms crossed. Grandma June sat in her favorite chair, knitting needles clicking softly. Brad cleared his throat. "Commander Mercer, thank you for letting us come." Rachel didn't respond. She just looked at Lily. This was her show. Tyler stepped forward first. His eyes were red. His hands were shaking. "Lily," his voice cracked. I practiced what I was going to say. I wrote it down and everything. But now I'm here, and—" He stopped, swallowed. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. What I did was wrong. Tearing your poster, taking your grandfather's coin, kicking you." His voice broke completely. "I keep thinking about how scared you must have been, how alone. And I did that. I made you feel that way." Lily watched him cry. She didn't move. I told myself you were lying because that's what my parents said, but that's not an excuse. I should have asked. I should have listened. Instead, I hurt you." Tyler wiped his face roughly. "I can't take it back. I can't undo it. But I promise I will never do anything like that again. To you or to anyone." He pulled something from his pocket. A folded piece of paper. "I made this last night. It's not as good as yours. But," he unfolded it. A hand-drawn picture of a woman in military gear with the words, "Lily's mom is a hero," written in careful letters. Lily's breath caught. "It's not enough," Tyler said. "I know it's not enough, but I wanted you to have something. To replace what I destroyed." He held it out with trembling hands. Lily looked at the drawing. At this boy who had tormented her less than 24 hours ago, now standing in her living room with tears streaming down his face. She took the paper. "Thank you," she said quietly. It's nice." Madison stepped forward next. She looked worse than Tyler. Older somehow, like the night had aged her in ways that would never fully reverse. "I recorded what happened," Madison said. "I filmed it like it was entertainment, like you were a joke." She couldn't meet Lily's eyes. "I'm older. I should have known better. I should have stopped it. Instead, I made it worse." She pulled out her phone. "I deleted the original video, but before I did, I showed it to myself. I watched it. All of it. I watched what we did to you." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "I didn't recognize myself. The person in that video, that's not who I want to be." Madison finally looked up. "I'm sorry, Lily. I'm sorry for what I did. I'm sorry for what I said. I'm sorry for stepping on your hand and calling your mother fake." She took a shaky breath. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even know if I can forgive myself. But I wanted you to know that I see it now. I see what I did. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying to be better." Lily nodded slowly. Okay. Madison looked confused. "I hear you. I believe you're sorry." Lily paused. "But my mom says forgiveness and trust aren't the same thing. So I forgive you. But I don't trust you yet." Madison's eyes filled with fresh tears. "That's fair. That's more than fair." Karen Hartley stepped forward. She looked like a woman who hadn't slept in days. "Lily, She stopped, started again. "I'm the adult. I should have known better. I should have been better. Instead, I stood in that gymnasium and told you your mother didn't exist. I laughed at you. I made others laugh at you." Her voice broke. "I've spent my whole life believing certain things about the military, about what women can and can't do, about who deserves respect and who doesn't." She shook her head. "Last night your mother showed me how wrong I was, not by yelling, not by threatening, just by being who she is." Karen looked at Rachel. "Commander Mercer, I owe you an apology too. I called the base. I tried to get you in trouble. I was so sure I was right that I couldn't accept being wrong." She wiped her eyes. "I'm ashamed of myself. I'm ashamed of what I taught my children, and I'm going to spend however long it takes to undo that damage." Rachel said nothing, but she gave a small nod. Brad was last. He stood in front of Lily, this Marine who had seemed so powerful the night before, now looking like a man who had lost everything he thought he knew. "Lily," his voice was rough. "I served 15 years, 3 combat tours. I've seen things that most people can't imagine. I thought that made me special, better than others." He paused. "Your mother showed me something last night. Real strength isn't about being bigger or louder or meaner. It's about standing up for what's right even when everyone is against you." He looked at Rachel. "Commander, you didn't yell at us. You didn't threaten us. You just told us the truth and let us sit with it." He swallowed hard. "That took more discipline than anything I've ever done in combat." He turned back to Lily. "Your mother is a hero. A real hero. And so are you. Standing up in front of that room telling the truth when everyone was laughing. That took guts. Courage I'm not sure I have." Brad reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. A challenge coin. Marine Raiders. "This was given to me by my commanding officer after my first combat deployment. It's one of my most prized possessions." He held it out. "I want you to have it." Lily's eyes widened. "I can't take that." "Please." Brad's voice cracked. "I know it doesn't fix anything. But I want you to know that I see you. I see what you did. And I respect it." Lily looked at her mother. Rachel's expression was unreadable. "It's your choice, baby," Rachel said quietly. Lily looked at the coin, at Brad's trembling hand, at this man who had hurt her and was now trying desperately to make it right. She took the coin. "Thank you," she said. "I'll keep it safe." Brad exhaled like he'd been holding his breath for hours. "Thank you. Thank you, Lily." The room was quiet for a long moment. Then Grandma June set down her knitting. "Well," she said briskly, "now that that's settled, would anyone like some coffee?" The tension broke. Not completely, but enough. Karen actually laughed, a wet, broken sound. Yes, coffee would be wonderful. I'll make a fresh pot." June stood up. "Commander Mercer, why don't you take our guests to the living room, Lily? You can help me in the kitchen." Lily followed her grandmother, still clutching Tyler's drawing in one hand and Brad's coin in the other. In the kitchen, June pulled her close. "You did good, baby girl. Real good." I didn't know what to say. "You said exactly the right thing. You forgave them, but you didn't let them off the hook." June smiled. "That's wisdom beyond your years. I learned it from Mom. You learned it from yourself." June kissed her forehead. "Now help me find the good cups. We've got guests." In the living room, Rachel sat across from the Hartley family. The silence wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. Brad spoke first. "Colonel Whitmore called me this morning. My commanding officer knows what happened. There's going to be an inquiry." Rachel nodded. "I expected that. I'm not fighting it. Whatever consequences come, I deserve them. What happens to you isn't my concern. What happens to your children is—" Brad looked surprised. "Ma'am, Tyler and Madison made mistakes. Bad ones. But they're young. They can still change." Rachel leaned forward slightly. "The question is whether you're going to teach them differently or let them repeat the pattern." Karen wiped her eyes. "We've already started. Last night Brad and I talked for hours about what we've been teaching them, about the example we've set. We've been wrong about a lot of things," Brad added. "The way we talk about women in the military, the way we judge people without knowing their stories, the way we use our rank like it makes us better than others." Rachel listened without interrupting. "Commander Mercer, can I ask you something?" Brad's voice was hesitant. "Go ahead." "How do you do it? How do you stay so controlled if someone hurt my kids the way we hurt Lily? I don't know if I could have handled it the way you did." Rachel was quiet for a moment. "I've spent 22 years training myself to respond instead of react, to assess before I act, to understand that the most powerful thing I can do is often the thing I don't do." "But weren't you angry? Furious?" Rachel's voice was soft. "When I saw Lily on that floor, bleeding, crying, holding her grandfather's coin, I wanted to burn that school to the ground." Brad blinked, But that wouldn't have helped her. It wouldn't have changed anything. It would have just given you an excuse to make me the villain. She paused. So I chose a different path. I chose to let the truth do the work. Karen shook her head in disbelief. I don't know how you do it. Practice. Years of practice. Rachel almost smiled. And a mother who raised me to believe that strength isn't about what you can destroy. It's about what you can build. Lily came back with a tray of coffee cups, Grandma June behind her with the pot. They served in silence the domestic ritual, providing a strange kind of normalcy after everything that had happened. Tyler accepted his cup with trembling hands. Mrs. Mercer, Commander Mercer, He stopped, flustered. Rachel is fine, she said quietly. Rachel. He tested the name. Can I ask you something? Of course. Is it true what the colonel said that you carried 2 Marines 3 miles with a broken ankle? The room went still. Rachel looked at this boy who had kicked her daughter less than 24 hours ago. She could shut him down, could refuse to answer, could make him feel the weight of what he'd done. Instead, she told the truth. It was a shattered ankle, not broken, and it wasn't 3 miles. It was closer to 4. Tyler's eyes went wide. How? 1 step at a time. That's how anything gets done. 1 step at a time. But the pain is temporary. The men I was carrying would have died if I stopped. That wasn't temporary. Did you ever think about giving up? Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Once, about halfway through, my ankle gave out completely and I went down hard. Both Marines were unconscious. I was bleeding from 3 different wounds. The enemy was closing in. She paused. I lay there in the dirt, and I thought about just stopping, letting it end. What made you keep going? Rachel looked at Lily. I thought about my daughter, about the promise I made when she was born, that I would always come home, that I would always protect her. Her voice softened. I couldn't break that promise, not even in the worst moment of my life. Lily's eyes filled with tears. She'd never heard this story before. So I got up. 1 more time, and then 1 more time after that, and then again and again until I reached the extraction point. Rachel took a breath. We all made it. All 3 of us. Because I refused to let that be the end. The room was silent. Brad set down his coffee cup. I've heard that story told a dozen different ways on base. I always assumed it was exaggerated, a myth. Most stories are, Rachel said. But sometimes the truth is more powerful than the legend. Why don't more people know about this about you? Because I didn't do it for recognition. I did it because it was my job. Because those were my brothers. Because that's what we do. Karen spoke quietly. And that's who Lily was telling us about. That's the mother we said didn't exist. Yes. God. Karen put her face in her hands. We're such fools. You're not fools, Rachel said. You're human. You made assumptions based on what you thought you knew. When those assumptions were challenged, you dug in instead of opening up. She paused. The question is what you do now. Brad looked at his children, at his wife, at this woman who had every reason to destroy them and had chosen mercy instead. We do better, he said. We learn. We grow. We make sure this matters. Rachel nodded slowly. That's all I ask. The morning stretched on. More coffee. More conversation. Slowly, impossibly, something began to form between these 2 families. Not friendship. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But understanding. Around 11, the Hartleys stood to leave. Tyler lingered at the door. Lily, she looked up. Would it be okay if... I know we can't be friends. not after what I did. But could we maybe start over, like actually get to know each other? Lily considered this for a long moment. I'll think about it, she said finally. Check back in a month. Tyler nodded quickly. Okay, I will. Thank you. The door closed behind them. Rachel, Lily, and Grandma June stood in the quiet house. Well, June said. That was something. Rachel pulled Lily close. How are you feeling, baby? Lily thought about it. Really thought. Tired, she said, but okay. I think I'm okay. You did so well. I'm so proud of you. I was scared. Being brave isn't about not being scared. It's about doing the right thing even when you are scared. Lily leaned into her mother's embrace. Mom. Yes. Can you tell me more stories about the missions about Dad? Rachel's breath caught. In 8 years, Lily had never asked directly. Are you sure you want to hear them? I want to know who you are, who he was, who our family is. Lily looked up with those fierce, clear eyes. I want to know everything. Rachel looked at her mother. June wiped her eyes and nodded. Okay, baby, Rachel said softly. Okay, I'll tell you everything. They moved to the couch. 3 generations of Mercer women curled up together in the late morning light. And Rachel began to talk. About Marcus. About how they met. About the way he laughed, and the way he loved, and the way he believed in her when no one else did. About her father. About his service. About the missions he couldn't talk about, and the sacrifices he made. About herself. About becoming a SEAL. About the training and the pain, and the moment she earned her trident, and wished he could have been there to see it. About the missions, the ones she could share. The brotherhood. The loss. The moments of terror and the moments of triumph. About coming home. About holding baby Lily for the first time. About promising Marcus's grave that she would protect their daughter no matter what. The stories poured out, years of silence breaking open, and Lily listened to every word. Somewhere in the middle of it all, Grandma June fell asleep in her chair, a soft smile on her face. But Rachel and Lily stayed awake, talking, crying, laughing, building something new from the pieces of everything that had been broken. When the afternoon sun began to fade, Lily looked up at her mother with new eyes. I understand now, she said. Why you're gone so much. Why you can't always be here. Rachel's heart clenched. I'm sorry, No. Lily shook her head. Don't be sorry. You're protecting people. You're teaching others how to protect people. That matters. But you matter too. You matter more than anything. Lily smiled. I know. That's why you always come back. Rachel pulled her daughter close and held on. This was what she fought for. This was what she'd always fought for. And no matter what came next, she would never stop. 3 months passed. The gymnasium of Pinecrest Elementary was packed tighter than it had been on Family Pride Night. Every seat filled, parents standing along the walls, teachers clustered near the exits. The local news had even sent a camera crew, though they'd been asked to stay in the back. Today was the Military Family Appreciation Assembly, and everyone knew who the guest of honor was. Lily sat in the front row, wearing her best dress, her grandfather's challenge coin hanging openly around her neck. Beside her sat Tyler Hartley. Not as an enemy, not quite as a friend, but as something in between a boy who was trying to become someone better. In the 3 months since that terrible night, Tyler had kept his promise. He'd checked in every week. At first, the conversations were awkward, stilted. But slowly, something had shifted. He'd started standing up for kids who got picked on. He'd stopped laughing at cruel jokes. He'd become, in his own small way, a different person. His parents were there, too. Brad and Karen Hartley sat in the middle section far from the front, deliberately invisible. The base inquiry had resulted in a formal reprimand for Brad. His promotion to Master Sergeant had been delayed by 2 years. Karen had resigned from the PTA. They'd accepted all of it without complaint. Principal Foster stepped up to the microphone. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our first annual Military Family Appreciation Assembly. Today, we're honoring the families who sacrifice so much for our country, not just the service members, but the spouses, the parents, and especially the children who carry the weight of their loved ones' service every single day." She paused. "We have a very special guest today. Someone who has served our nation with distinction for over 2 decades. Someone who has earned medals most of us can't even pronounce. And someone who is above all a devoted mother." The audience stirred with anticipation. "Please join me in welcoming Commander Rachel Mercer, United States Navy SEAL." The applause was thunderous. Rachel walked to the podium in her dress whites. Every medal, every ribbon, the SEAL trident gleaming on her chest. She looked different than she had 3 months ago. Not harder, but more complete. Like something that had been locked away had finally been set free. She adjusted the microphone and looked out at the sea of faces. "Thank you, Principal Foster. Thank you all for being here." Her eyes found Lily in the front row. "My daughter asked me to tell you a story today. A true story. About who I am, where I came from, and why I do what I do." She took a breath. "I'm going to start with my father." The room went quiet. His name was Captain James Mercer. He was a Navy SEAL. One of the best. He served 3 tours in Vietnam, earned every medal they could give him, and came home with scars he never talked about. Rachel's voice softened. "He was also the kindest man I ever knew. He taught me to fish. He taught me to fight. And he taught me that real strength isn't about how hard you can hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward." She paused. "He died when I was 12. An operation I still can't talk about. They came to our door in the middle of the night, and just like that he was gone." The audience was completely silent now. For a long time I was angry. Angry at the Navy. Angry at God. Angry at him for leaving us. But then I started reading his journals. His letters. The things he'd written about his service, his brothers, his country. Rachel's voice caught slightly. And I realized something. He didn't die for abstract ideas. He died for people. For the men beside him. For the families back home. For a little girl who didn't understand yet what sacrifice meant. She looked at Lily again. "That's when I decided to become a SEAL." A murmur ran through the crowd. People told me it was impossible. Women couldn't do it. The training was too hard. The standards were too high. I heard every excuse, every doubt, every reason why I should choose something else. She smiled slightly. I heard it so many times that I stopped listening. In 2003, I was one of 3 women to attempt SEAL qualification. The other 2 dropped out, not because they weren't strong enough, but because the pressure was too much. The constant scrutiny, the whispers, The feeling that every mistake you made was proof that women didn't belong. Her voice hardened. I didn't drop out. I finished. And on the day they pinned the trident on my chest, I looked up at the sky and told my father, I did it, Dad. I finally understand. The audience erupted in applause. Rachel waited for it to fade. But this story isn't really about me. It's about someone else, someone braver than I've ever been. She stepped away from the podium. Lily, would you come up here, please? Lily's eyes went wide. Me, you. Lily stood up slowly. Tyler gave her a small nod of encouragement. She walked to the stage on trembling legs and stood beside her mother. Rachel put her arm around her daughter. 3 months ago, this little girl stood in this very gymnasium and told a room full of people the truth about who I am. She was mocked. She was laughed at. She was called a liar. And later that night, she was physically attacked by children who thought she had no one to protect her. The audience shifted uncomfortably. Many of them remembered that night. Some of them had laughed. But Lily didn't give up. She didn't take back her words. She held on to the truth even when everyone told her it wasn't real. Rachel's voice swelled with pride. And when I asked her later why she didn't just lie, why she didn't just say what they wanted to hear, you know what she told me? She looked down at Lily. She said, because you taught me that the truth is worth fighting for, even when it hurts, even when no one believes you. Rachel's eyes glistened. I've earned medals for combat operations, for saving lives, for completing missions that most people will never know about. But nothing has ever made me prouder than watching my daughter stand alone against a room full of doubters and refuse to break. She squeezed Lily's shoulder. That's the real legacy. Not the trident, not the medals. This. She gestured between herself and Lily. The courage to tell the truth. The strength to stand alone. The faith that if you hold on long enough, the people who love you will find their way to you. She turned back to the audience. I want to say something to the parents here, especially the military families. Her voice shifted, becoming more direct. We teach our children a lot of things. How to be tough. How to be strong. How to handle the long deployments and the empty chairs at dinner. She paused. But do we teach them to respect other people's truths? Do we teach them that strength comes in forms we might not recognize? Do we teach them that mocking someone for who their parent is or isn't says more about us than about them? The silence was heavy. I'm not here to lecture. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here because my daughter asked me to come. Because she believes still after everything that people can change, that hearts can open, that truth can win. Rachel looked at Brad and Karen Hartley. She forgave the people who hurt her. Not because they deserved it, not because it was easy, but because she understood something that took me 20 years to learn. Her voice softened. Holding on to anger doesn't make you strong. It makes you tired. And this little girl, she pulled Lily closer. She's too busy being brave to be tired. The applause started slowly, then built to a roar. People stood. Tears flowed. Cameras flashed. But Rachel wasn't done. I have one more thing to share. Something Lily doesn't know yet. Lily looked up at her mother with curious eyes. Rachel reached into her pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. This was supposed to be given to me by my father. He had it made before his last deployment, but he never came home to give it to me. My mother kept it hidden for 30 years, waiting for the right moment. She opened the box. Inside was a trident, smaller than the official one, more delicate, but unmistakably real. It's a family trident. My father had it commissioned for me when I was just a little girl, long before I ever dreamed of becoming a SEAL. Rachel's voice broke. The inscription on the back says, "For my daughter, may you always find the strength to stand." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "I've been waiting for the right moment to pass it on. I thought about giving it to you when you graduated high school, or when you turned 18, or on your wedding day." Rachel shook her head. "But then I watched you stand in front of that room and tell the truth when no one believed you, and I realized you've already earned this." She knelt down in front of her daughter. "Lily Grace Mercer, you are the bravest person I know. You carry your grandfather's courage, your father's heart, and something that's entirely your own." She pinned the small trident to Lily's dress. "This isn't a medal for military service. This is a symbol of who you are, a warrior, a truth-teller, a Mercer." Lily threw her arms around her mother and sobbed. The audience was gone. The cameras were gone. In that moment, it was just the two of them holding each other on a stage where everything had changed. "I miss Dad," Lily whispered. "I know, baby. I miss him too. Do you think he can see us?" Rachel pulled back and looked into her daughter's eyes. "I think he's been watching this whole time, and I think he's prouder of you than he's ever been of anything." They held each other for a long moment. Then Grandma June stood up from her seat in the front row. "All right, that's enough crying. If I shed one more tear, I'm going to need a transfusion." The audience laughed. The tension broke. Rachel stood up, wiped her eyes, and took Lily's hand. "Thank you all for coming. Thank you for listening. And thank you for being part of this community, even when we get it wrong, even when we hurt each other, even when we forget what really matters." She looked out at the crowd, at the families who had supported her, at the ones who had doubted her, at the children who would carry these lessons forward. The truth is always worth fighting for. Remember that. She stepped back from the podium. The applause lasted for 5 full minutes. Later, after the assembly ended and the crowds dispersed, Rachel found herself standing in the parking lot with Lily and Grandma June. Tyler Hartley approached hesitantly. "Commander Mercer, can I talk to Lily for a second?" Rachel looked at her daughter. Lily nodded. "Go ahead." Tyler stepped closer to Lily. He was different now. Taller, somehow. Not in height, but in the way he held himself. "That was amazing," he said. "What your mom said. What she gave you. All of it." Lily touched the trident on her chest. "Thanks. I know I said I'd check back in a month, and I did. And I kept checking back." He took a breath. "I wanted to ask you something. Would it be okay if we were friends now? Like real friends? I know I don't deserve it. I know what I did. But I've been trying really hard to be better, and Tyler?" He stopped. "Yes. We can be friends." His face lit up. "Really? Really?" Lily smiled. "But if you ever kick anyone again, I'll have my mom teach me that ankle-shattering thing and we're done." Tyler laughed a real laugh, bright and relieved. "Deal. Absolute deal." He ran back to his parents who were waiting by their car. Brad Hartley gave Rachel a small nod. She returned it. Not friendship. Probably not ever. But respect. And maybe that was enough. Rachel looked at her daughter, standing in the afternoon sun, with her grandfather's coin around her neck and her family's trident pinned to her chest. "You ready to go home, baby?" "Almost." Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out Tyler's hand-drawn picture, the one he'd given her the morning after everything happened. She'd been carrying it with her ever since. "I want to put this in my room, next to the poster I'm going to make." "What poster?" "A new one, about our whole family." Lily's eyes shone. "Grandpa, Dad, you, me, Grandma June, everyone." Rachel felt tears prick her eyes again. "That sounds perfect." They walked to the car together. 3 generations of Mercer women carrying the weight of their history and the hope of their future. Grandma June climbed into the front seat with a theatrical groan. "Lord, I'm too old for this much emotion. Someone get me a glass of wine and a heating pad." Rachel laughed. Lily giggled. They pulled out of the parking lot, leaving Pinecrest Elementary behind. In the rearview mirror, Rachel could see the school shrinking into the distance, the place where her daughter had been hurt, the place where her daughter had been healed, the place where everything had changed. "Mom," Lily's voice came from the back seat. "Yes, baby. Thank you." "For what?" "For always coming back, for teaching me to be brave, for being my mom." Rachel's hands tightened on the wheel. Her vision blurred. "Thank you for being my daughter." They drove home in comfortable silence, the setting sun painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. That night, after Lily was asleep and Grandma June was snoring softly in her chair, Rachel stepped out onto the back porch. The stars were out. Thousands of them. The same stars that had watched over her on every mission, every operation, every dark night, when she'd wondered if she'd ever see home again. She pulled out her own challenge coin, the one her father had given her mother, the one her mother had given her, the one she would someday give to Lily. "Hey, Marcus," she whispered. "Hey, Dad. I hope you saw everything today. I hope you're proud." The wind stirred. The leaves rustled. And somewhere in the vast, quiet darkness, Rachel felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. She went back inside, checked on Lily one more time, and finally went to bed. Tomorrow there would be training. Responsibilities. The endless work of protecting a nation that would never fully understand what it cost. But tonight, Rachel Mercer slept without dreams. Because she had done what she'd always promised to do. She had protected her daughter. She had told the truth. And she had come home. The challenge coin sat on her nightstand, catching the moonlight. 3 generations of warriors. 3 generations of truth-tellers. 3 generations of Mercers who refused to break. And now a 4th was beginning. Because Lily Grace Mercer was 8 years old, fierce beyond her years, and already braver than most people would ever be. She had looked a room full of doubters in the eye and said, "My mom is a SEAL." They had laughed, they had mocked, they had tried to break her, but she had stood, and in the end the truth had won. It always does. What would you do if someone kicked your child for telling the truth? What would you say to the people who mocked them? Drop your answers in the comments. I read every single one. If this story reminded you what real courage looks like, hit that like button, subscribe, and tap the bell icon. Share this with someone who's ever been told their truth wasn't real. Because some truths are worth fighting for, and some little girls grow up to change the world.